I thought I had found my happy ending with Marcus. We had been together for 2 years and everything felt perfect. He was 42, divorced with a 14-year-old daughter named Sophia who had grown close to me. Marcus treated me like a queen, and I genuinely believed our little family was meant to be. But then I made what I thought was a smart decision to seek therapy to improve myself and our relationship. That decision would destroy everything I held dear. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoy real-life stories that show how good intentions can lead to devastating consequences. Because what I'm about to share will show you how easily a trusted professional can manipulate your mind and turn your greatest blessing into your worst nightmare. At 28, I was working as a marketing coordinator and felt like I had my life together. Marcus and I were discussing moving in together, and I wanted to make sure I could be the best partner possible. I'd always believed in self-improvement, so when I found Dr. Helena Reeves through an online referral, it seemed like fate. Dr. Reeves had an impressive office in downtown with certificates covering every wall. She was about 50 years old, with sharp features and an authoritative presence that immediately made me feel like I was in capable hands. During our first session, she listened intently as I described my relationship with Marcus and my growing bond with Sophia. I told her about our weekend camping trips, how Marcus would surprise me with my favorite coffee every morning, and how Sophia had started calling me her bonus mom. These memories still make my heart ache because they were genuinely beautiful moments that I let someone poison. But Dr. Reeves had a different perspective on everything. When I mentioned how protective Marcus was of Sophia, she raised an eyebrow and asked if I thought that was healthy. When I talked about how Marcus occasionally checked his phone during dinner, she suggested this might indicate divided attention or hidden communications. At first, I defended Marcus. I explained that he was simply a devoted father and a responsible professional who needed to stay connected for work emergencies. But Dr. Reeves had a way of presenting her concerns that made them sound like established psychological facts rather than opinions. She would say things like, research shows that divorced men often struggle with commitment in new relationships, or children from broken homes frequently manipulate situations to maintain control over their remaining parent. She spoke with such authority that I started questioning my own perceptions. During our third session, Dr. Reeves introduced what she called behavioral pattern analysis. She asked me to keep a journal documenting Marcus's daily habits, his interactions with Sophia, and any changes in his routine. She framed this as a tool for better understanding relationship dynamics, but I now realize she was training me to spy on the man I loved. The journal exercise was insidious because it made me hyper-focus on normal behaviors and interpret them through a lens of suspicion. When Marcus worked late on a project, I wrote it down as unexplained absence. When he laughed at something on his phone, I recorded it as secretive communication. By our fifth session, Dr. Reeves was pointing out patterns that she claimed were red flags. She told me that Marcus's reluctance to discuss marriage timelines was a classic sign of someone keeping their options open. She suggested that Sophia's occasional teenage moodiness was actually strategic manipulation designed to create conflict between Marcus and me. The most damaging session was our seventh meeting. I had mentioned that Marcus had been going to the gym more frequently, trying to get back in shape for summer. Dr. Reeves leaned forward with a concerned expression and asked who he might be trying to impress. When I said he was probably just focused on health, she nodded in a way that suggested I was being naive. She then shared what she claimed was a case study about a previous client whose partner had increased his fitness routine as preparation for dating other women. She presented this as clinical evidence rather than an isolated anecdote, and I found myself wondering if Marcus was preparing to leave me. The psychological manipulation was so gradual that I did not recognize what was happening. Dr. Reeves would validate my love for Marcus while simultaneously planting seeds of doubt about his commitment. She would praise my intelligence while suggesting that smart women needed to be vigilant against deception. After 2 months of therapy, I was no longer the confident, trusting woman who had first walked into her office. Instead, I had become suspicious and hyper-vigilant, constantly analyzing Marcus's behavior for signs of betrayal. The worst part was that I thought this newfound awareness was growth and maturity. The changes in my behavior did not go unnoticed by Marcus and Sophia. I started checking Marcus's phone whenever he left it unattended, scrolling through his messages and call logs looking for evidence of infidelity. I began questioning him about his whereabouts with an intensity that confused and hurt him. When Marcus texted with his colleague Sarah about work projects, I interpreted their professional exchanges as flirtatious. Dr. Reeves encouraged this interpretation, explaining that emotional affairs often begin as workplace friendships. She taught me to look for subtle signs like inside jokes, frequent communication, and shared interests as evidence of inappropriate connections. I started following Marcus's social media activity, obsessively analyzing who liked his posts, and looking for female names I did not recognize. When Sarah liked a photo of Marcus at a company event, I brought it up in therapy as proof of her interest in him. Dr. Reeves nodded knowingly and suggested that I was becoming more perceptive about relationship threats. Marcus's increased gym attendance became a constant source of anxiety for me. I would drive by his gym to verify that he was actually there, and I started timing his workouts to see if they matched his reported schedule. When he came home energized and happy after exercise, I interpreted his good mood as evidence that something exciting was happening in his life outside of our relationship. Dr. Reeves reinforced every suspicion I brought to her. When I mentioned that Marcus had bought new clothes, she suggested that people often update their wardrobe when they want to attract new romantic interests. When I reported that he had been more affectionate lately, she warned that guilty partners sometimes overcompensate with extra attention. The situation with Sophia became equally toxic. Dr. Reeves had convinced me that teenage daughters often sabotage their father's relationships to maintain their position as the primary female in his life. I started interpreting Sophia's normal teenage behavior through this warped lens. When Sophia forgot to mention her school play until the last minute, I saw it as deliberate exclusion rather than typical teenage disorganization. When she chose to spend time in her room instead of watching movies with Marcus and me, I viewed it as a calculated attempt to create distance between us. The first major confrontation happened on a Tuesday evening when Marcus came home an hour later than usual from drinks with colleagues. Instead of greeting him with understanding, I immediately demanded to know where he had been and why he had not answered his phone. Marcus was shocked by my aggressive tone and tried to explain that his phone had died and he had lost track of time while discussing a work crisis. But Dr. Reeves had prepared me for exactly this type of explanation. She had taught me that cheating partners always have reasonable sounding excuses for their behavior. Instead of listening to Marcus with the love and trust that had characterized our relationship, I interrogated him like a criminal suspect. Marcus tried to reassure me, but I could see the hurt and confusion in his eyes. He asked what had gotten into me lately and why I seemed to distrust him. I told him about the therapy and my newfound awareness of relationship red flags. He suggested that maybe we should attend couples counseling together, but Dr. Reeves had already warned me that guilty partners often try to control the therapeutic narrative. The incident with Sophia was even more damaging. She had forgotten to invite me to her school play, and when I confronted her about it, she started crying and apologizing. Instead of accepting her apology and recognizing typical teenage oversight, I accused her of deliberately excluding me from important family events. Marcus was appalled by how I spoke to his daughter. He told me that my behavior was completely out of character and hurtful. But Dr. Reeves had taught me that protective fathers often enable their children's manipulative behavior. I stood my ground and demanded that Marcus choose between supporting me or allowing his daughter to disrespect our relationship. Each conflict followed the same pattern. I would bring my concerns to Dr. Reeves, who would validate my suspicions and encourage me to be more assertive in defending my position. She taught me phrases like, "I will not be gaslighted," and "I deserve respect in this relationship," that I used as weapons against the people I loved most. Marcus became increasingly frustrated with my behavior. He pointed out that I had changed dramatically since starting therapy and suggested that maybe I should consider seeing a different therapist. But Dr. Reeves had prepared me for this reaction too. She explained that partners of strong women often feel threatened when those women begin advocating for themselves. By this point, I was barely sleeping and felt constantly anxious. Marcus and Sophia were walking on eggshells around me, trying to avoid triggering another confrontation. The loving, joyful atmosphere that had characterized our home was replaced by tension and suspicion. The final explosion happened on a Friday evening in late October. Marcus had invited me for dinner at his house, where Sophia was hosting a sleepover with three of her friends. I should have been excited about spending time with our little family, but I arrived already on edge from my session with Dr. Reeves that afternoon. During therapy, Dr. Reeves had suggested that Marcus's invitation to a family dinner might be his way of using Sophia and her friends as a buffer to avoid serious conversation about our relationship issues. She had planted the idea that guilty partners often surround themselves with other people to prevent confrontation. Everything started normally enough. Marcus had prepared my favorite pasta dish, and Sophia's friends were polite and cheerful. For a brief moment, I remembered why I had loved this life so much. But then, Marcus's phone buzzed with a text message. I saw Sarah's name on the screen before Marcus picked up the phone. The message was about a Saturday morning meeting to finalize their quarterly presentation. It was completely innocent and work-related, but Dr. Reeves had trained me to see everything through the lens of deception. My heart started racing as her voice echoed in my mind. Saturday meetings are classic cover stories for affairs. No legitimate business requires weekend face-to-face meetings. I felt like I was watching my worst fears come true right in front of Sophia and her friends. I tried to stay calm, but when Marcus casually mentioned that he would need to go into the office the next day, I snapped. I accused him of lying about work to cover up his affair with Sarah. Marcus was completely blindsided by the accusation and tried to show me his work emails to prove the meeting was legitimate. But I was beyond reason at that point. I started listing all the evidence I had been collecting: the gym visits, the new clothes, the phone calls, the late nights. Marcus realized that I had been spying on him and felt completely betrayed. He asked how I could have so little trust in him after 2 years together. Sophia tried to defend her father, explaining that she had seen the work emails about the Saturday meeting. But Dr. Reeves had convinced me that Sophia was part of the problem. I turned on this 14-year-old girl with fury that still makes me sick to remember. I accused Sophia of manipulating the situation and working against our relationship. I told her that she had been sabotaging my place in the family from the beginning and that she was just like her mother, trying to control Marcus's life. The poor child started sobbing, and her friends looked terrified. Marcus was furious about how I was treating his daughter. He told me that my behavior was completely unacceptable and demanded that I apologize to Sophia immediately. But I felt cornered and attacked, like everyone was ganging up on me to protect their lies. In that moment of complete emotional breakdown, I screamed the words that still haunt me every single day. You know what? Just die, both of you. I am done with your lies and manipulation. The room went completely silent. Sophia's friends were terrified, and one of them started crying. Marcus looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a combination of shocked disgust and complete disbelief. I had just told the man I loved and his innocent daughter to die over a work meeting. Marcus's voice was deadly calm when he finally spoke. Get out. Now. He was already reaching for his phone to call the parents of Sophia's friends, asking them to pick up their children immediately. Sophia was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. I wanted to take back what I had said, but my pride and the toxic training from Dr. Reeves made me double down instead of apologizing. I gathered my things and slammed the door behind me, telling myself that they had driven me to this point with their deception and manipulation. That night, I called Dr. Reeves' emergency line and told her everything that had happened. Instead of helping me recognize the severity of my actions, she reinforced that Marcus and Sophia had pushed me beyond my limits. She suggested that my explosive reaction was a natural response to ongoing emotional abuse. I went to sleep that night, feeling justified in my anger, but also terrified by the intensity of my own rage. I had no idea that I would never speak to Marcus again, and that I had traumatized a child who had only ever tried to include me in her family. The next morning, I woke up expecting angry texts from Marcus that I could address after we both cooled down. Instead, I discovered that he had blocked me on every platform and changed his phone number. When I tried calling his work line, his assistant told me that he was not available and could not say when he would be. Over the next few days, I reached out to mutual friends, hoping they could mediate the situation. Instead, I found that Marcus had already told several people about what happened, and they were horrified by my behavior. Jessica, my closest friend, finally agreed to meet me for coffee, but her demeanor was completely different. Jessica asked me about Dr. Reeves and seemed concerned about the therapy I had been receiving. She suggested that maybe I should get a second opinion about my relationship issues. When I defended Dr. Reeves and her insights, Jessica looked uncomfortable and changed the subject. That night, Jessica called me with information that would change everything. She had researched Dr. Reeves online and found several concerning reviews and complaints from former clients. Multiple people reported that Dr. Reeves had encouraged them to end healthy relationships based on manufactured suspicions and paranoia. I initially dismissed these reviews as coming from people who could not handle the truth about their relationships. But as Jessica read more details, I started recognizing my own experience in their stories. Several former clients described the same pattern: gradual erosion of trust, encouragement to spy on partners, and escalation of minor issues into relationship ending conflicts. The most damaging review came from a woman who said that Dr. Reeves had convinced her that her husband's close relationship with his teenage son was inappropriate and threatening to their marriage. She had followed Dr. Reeves' advice to create ultimatums and boundaries that ultimately destroyed her family. She warned other readers to research Dr. Reeves' credentials and complaints before trusting her with their relationships. I spent the entire night researching Dr. Reeves' background and found a trail of malpractice complaints and professional sanctions. Her license had been suspended twice in other states for unethical practices, and she had recently moved to our state under a provisional license that was supposed to include supervision. The most shocking discovery was an online support group for people who had been manipulated by unethical therapists. As I read their stories, I realized that Dr. Reeves had used classic manipulation techniques to destabilize my relationship and create dependency on her services. I learned about concepts like therapeutic gaslighting, where therapists undermine their clients' perceptions of reality to maintain control. I discovered that some unethical practitioners deliberately create crises in their clients' lives to ensure ongoing business and emotional dependency. The support group helped me understand that Dr. Reeves had targeted my relationship because it was healthy and stable. She had seen an opportunity to create problems that would require extensive therapy to resolve. Every technique she used on me was designed to erode my trust in my own judgment while increasing my reliance on her guidance. I tried desperately to contact Marcus and explain what I had learned about Dr. Reeves. I wrote long letters detailing the manipulation and apologizing for my behavior. I sent them to his work address, his sister's house, and anywhere else I could think of. None of them were answered. Through mutual friends, I learned that Sophia was in therapy herself, trying to process the trauma of that terrible night. Marcus was considering a restraining order to prevent any further contact from me. The family I had loved and lost was working to heal from the damage I had caused while under Dr. Reeves' influence. I finally found a legitimate therapist, Dr. Martin Brooks, who specialized in helping people recover from therapeutic abuse. He helped me understand how my mind had been systematically poisoned against the people I loved most. The process of recognizing my own manipulation was painful but necessary for genuine healing. I filed formal complaints against Dr. Reeves with the state licensing board and provided my documentation to support the cases of other victims. Within 6 months, her license was permanently revoked and she was required to pay restitution to several former clients. I also joined advocacy efforts to help other people recognize the signs of therapeutic abuse and manipulation. I learned that healthy therapy empowers clients to make their own decisions based on their own values, while manipulative therapy creates dependency and encourages destructive behaviors. The hardest part of my recovery was accepting that I would never get Marcus and Sophia back. The damage I caused in that moment of manipulated rage was permanent and irreversible. I had destroyed the trust of two people who had only ever loved and welcomed me into their lives. I wrote a letter to Sophia that I never sent, apologizing for traumatizing her and hoping that she would heal from the experience. I wanted her to know that her father was a good man who deserved love and respect, and that my behavior had nothing to do with her worth as a person. My story has helped several people recognize similar manipulation in their own therapeutic relationships. I speak at support groups and share my experience online to warn others about the signs of unethical practices. Preventing even one person from making my devastating mistake helps give meaning to my loss. I learned that trusting your instincts is more important than trusting any expert who tells you to doubt the people you love. Real therapy should help you communicate better and grow together, not create suspicion and destruction. The damage we cause when our minds are poisoned by manipulation can be permanent, but taking responsibility and helping others can be part of the healing process. I lost the love of my life and hurt an innocent child because I trusted the wrong person with my mind. But maybe my story can save someone else from making the same devastating choice. Have you ever experienced a situation where someone you trusted led you down the wrong path? How do you decide who to trust when you are seeking help for your relationships? Please share your thoughts in the comments below because your insights might help someone who is struggling with similar doubts. Do not forget to like this video if it made you think about the importance of trusting your instincts and subscribe for more real stories about learning from life's hardest lessons. Share this with anyone who might benefit from understanding how easily manipulation can destroy the things we value most. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helps you protect the love in your own life. Remember that the people who truly care about you want you to be happy and confident, not suspicious and afraid.